Hi, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Risk Matrix podcast with James Junkin.
Roll Tide! It's almost back. It's almost back. Yes.
And there's James, right? He's going to go right into it. Roll Tide. Let's go. And myself, Dr. Martin, and we're here to talk to you today about should I quit my job? This comes up as James is going to tell you. Go ahead, James.
All the time. Safety professionals, email, message me on LinkedIn, call, text, and they're having difficulties at work implementing what they think should be an effective safety management system. So today, we're going to talk about when it comes time to leave and whether you should stay and try harder or find another place.
Now, remember, everything that we say today is going to be kind of specific to you, right? So we're going to give you a few tips about what we've done in the past and how we've handled things and some opinions on when that time has come. So before we get started, James, you've got to read for us today. We've got a sponsor for this show.
We do, and I'm super excited about this because this week's episode is sponsored by an exciting and upcoming Veriforce event, which includes door prizes. So Veriforce authorized instructors, this one is for you. Be on the lookout for an invitation to an instructor-wide update meeting to be held virtually August the 28th. The meeting will be online and announce some exciting changes within Veriforce's training programs to get workers home safe from high hazard jobs like lockout, tagout, and confined space. So we're going to be discussing our competency-based courses. We're going to discuss the training roadmap and what's coming soon. I'll be presenting with Diana Brode, November's launch of Basic 7.0, which will replace SafeLand USA 2021 Basic Orientation. A lot of changes there. There's going to be a session by Bill Vandersand on Veriforce's newest, most impactful course, Safe Driver, getting workers home safe from the road. And for finale, we're going to have a panel discussion with industry leaders regarding frontline safety leadership. So be on the lookout for an email invitation for the August 28th online event. And did I mention there'll be door prizes?
Listen, I'm just going to go just for the door prizes because I like to win stuff. Before we move on into our episode here, James, I just want to say you mentioned Bill Vandersand, and we don't usually do this, but I'm going to give him a shout out. He just passed his certified safety professional exam. Go, Bill Vandersand! Congratulations. He's a member of our Veriforce Strategic Advisory Board, and so we're real proud of him. And congratulations again, Bill, on that accomplishment.
First
Roll
time
Tide.
out, fellow master trainer, great friend, awesome presenter. Congratulations, Bill.
All right, let's jump into it. This episode and this conversation that we're going to have here was born out of a LinkedIn post that I made. You know, if you all follow me or follow James, I like to post stuff and he likes to post stuff that kind of comes up in our professional lives. And like James said earlier, I can't tell you how many times people come to us and they say, I'm having these problems. Safety's not a priority. They don't want to spend the money. They disagree with me on the risk. And should I quit? And I've got some real strong opinions on that. But James, I'll let you start us off with kind of how this conversation goes in your mind when you start to think about clients, for example, as a consultant.
I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink and him and Leif Babin's book, Extreme Ownership. And so it's difficult for me to quit, to give up, because I want to take ownership, and we're going to talk about taking ownership, but there does come a time when there's only so much ownership you can take. And knowing when to make that decision is one, I think, that's very tricky, nuanced, and we're going to discuss maybe some signs and that it's time for you to move on within this podcast today. So very, very, very important topic because I'm just opposed to quitting.
I'm gonna tell you, sometimes you just have to do it, right?
But I'll say
You
this:
know,
I've been loyal to people and companies
long,
in my career that weren't loyal back.
right, right.
So
I,
we
I
just
will
never
say,
know.
I will say, subject to your mention of Jocko Willink, right, and extreme ownership. One of the things that comes to mind when I'm thinking about, is this person worth all the effort that I'm putting in? Is this company worth this? Am I going to make a difference? Because leadership really is about making a difference, right? It's making a difference with the team, with a company, etc. And in order to gain ownership, you have to be leading people who will relinquish to you that area of expertise. Okay. And that's just my opinion. I think that, when you come into a company and you come in as a safety professional or any professional of any kind, for that matter, that hopefully you have the tools and equipment to help them in that area to improve.
Right.
And so the company needs to, number one, they have to be supporting you. What does that look like, James? What does a company supporting you look like? Or does it vary?
I think it varies. And what I kind of like to do is go through this list and you talk about when it's time to leave, and I'll talk about
When it's time
staying
to
on
stay?
and
Okay.
continuing to fight the battle.
All
So
right.
this is one of the ones you posted, and I think it's really cool. You're not learning. You're not learning.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I would say if I'm not learning, right, that's a me thing. Okay. That's not a company thing, right? So a lot of people that come to us, they are frustrated with the company, right? But your own growth is equally as important as a professional. So what James is mentioning here is, are they supporting you in your growth as a professional, to get your CEUs, to expand your knowledge base, to go to classes or take them online? Um, it's really important, unless you're somebody who doesn't have any aspirations to do anything else but what you're always doing, um, to be taking that next step forward, right?
So
Or
I agree with that. There's some personal responsibility. I'm responsible for my own professional development, but many times what I hear is, you know, I'm not getting to do the things that I want to do, i.e., the company's not paying for it. So my response is, have you made a convincing argument on how this benefits not only you, but the organization? Have you talked to them about your professional development plan? Are there courses you want to take? And it's an investigation course thing. Uh,
have you related it back to what they do and how
Absolutely.
how how crucial it is for you to get these new knowledge points?
So before you just say I'm not learning and they're not supporting me, I think you need to take some ownership in the fact, hey, have I communicated what I want to do, the cost associated with it, and how it benefits the organization as a whole? There's a lot of professional development that you can do that doesn't cost anything. I recently, my term ended at Professional Safety Journal. As chair, I was term limited there. I enjoyed my time at Professional Safety Journal. But if you're a member of ASSP, that magazine comes out every month with peer-reviewed articles. Uh, you know,
And the BCSP does quizzes for
Absolutely.
free, for free, that you can
YouTube
get your
is your
CEUs.
friend. This podcast, I've had people reach out to us, say, it helped me a little bit in a certain situation that I was having. So you're responsible for your own professional development. But if you're looking for your company to pay for it, hey, make a convincing argument on what the ROI is going to be, not only just for you, but for the organization. Here's one. Okay. Um, you're consistently stressed, negative, or unhappy at work.
Okay, listen. Uh, I know there are a lot of people who love their job, right? And they happily go to work every day. But by and large, my philosophy has always been, I work to live and not live to work, right? So when you go to work, it's work. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right? You're supposed to be grinding and doing those things. And I think you would agree with me about that when it comes to like Jocko's philosophy on extreme ownership, right? Work is work. You have to work. If work is hard, good, because that's gonna bring you to the next level.
Well, I also think when we say you're consistently stressed, negative, or unhappy at work, that tells me processes are not in place. So, what are you doing to change it? What processes are you putting? If you're always running around, putting out fires, being in a reactive mode, that creates stress. That
Are you
makes
organizing?
unhappiness. That
Are
makes,
you prioritizing?
are you prioritizing? So you got to get ahead of it, and I think that comes down to what can I do to lighten the load on me through delegation, through things that, are fundamental leadership techniques, prioritizing what I do during the day. Those are things that you can do to release your own stress. Nobody's going
I,
to come and
I
do that
like
for you.
I like the Marie Kondo thing, right? What can you do to clear your space and make it organized, right? And I hate this analogy, but I'm going to say it anyways, the low-hanging fruit, right?
All right.
There are things that are getting in your way that are just ripe to be picked. Get them out of the way, address them, and then look at the things that are going to make the most impact in your
I
company.
think you could, like, all of us have office hours in safety. You might be working in the field, but you got paperwork to do, right? We all have paperwork to do. We all have emails to answer. We all have Teams or Zoom or GoToMeeting meetings to go to. I think probably what happens is, for most people, me in particular, is my day gets clogged up with those things, and then other work that's important work, not that that's not important work, but time sensitive work, critical work, work that impacts directly workers in the field, sort of gets pushed to the side, and then something comes up, I'm all stressed about it. So as safety professionals or any professional, you don't get paid to answer emails. You don't get paid to talk on the phone. You don't get paid to go to Zoom meetings. You get paid to manage your safety department, or aspects of your safety department. That's what you're getting paid for. So look, prioritize. I'm going to set this time that I'm going to only have meetings. I'm making a New Year's resolution, Dr. Martin. I will not in 2024 do any meetings prior to 10 a.m.
You're almost 6 months in and you violated that already, James. But
Well,
but
I'm
that's
going
a
to do it for
that's a
next
good
year.
thought,
I'm going to do it for next year, right? I'm going to do it for next year. But
right?
prioritize, set some time, some quiet time. Not everything's an emergency. This is when I'm going to answer emails. This is when I'm going to answer texts. This is when I'm going to work on our safety management system. Hey, this day of the week, barring whatever comes up, I'll deal with our supply chain risk management software. This is when I'm going to train. You've got to schedule, and that will help you reduce some of the stress in your life.
Well, it will also help you manage other people's perceived emergencies, right? Because at least in my role as a safety professional over the years, everybody has something going on. I work a lot in construction, right? So there's a lot of projects going on, and they perceive what they're doing as most important, right? And it's more important than anything you could be doing or anything else anybody else could be asking you for. So you have to have a good handle on prioritizing your time, what's important, what's not, and you also need to have an advocate that works for you in the company that oversees how your time is used. Because at some point you're gonna be in a conundrum of, do I do this or do I do that? I can only do one at a time. And so having a boss or supervisor or a company owner that helps you say, this is what I want when you can't choose.
So if you're in that situation and you're all stressed out, this is where that communication goes to the C-suite. A lot of times we have this perception that people understand what it is we do all day. I'm getting overwhelmed. I
They
don't have
don't.
resources and things. You have to raise that issue. Now, if you raise that issue and you're truly understaffed, you're truly overstretched, then you have to present the argument of what the risk is to the company because you're not adequately being able to do your job and you need more resource allocation. After you've made all those cases and people said no and it's really impacting, then I think you're in a position where you might want to maybe look elsewhere. But do all these things first before you just say, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit
Right.
my job. Okay. How about
What's
this?
up? What's next?
There is a high turnover rate among employees. That's a good one.
So I guess it depends on what the turnover is from. Some industries just have a turnover, right? And that's part of your job is to work in an industry that has a high turnover. Construction, for example, a lot of times has a high turnover because jobs end, jobs start. Sometimes there's a transient workforce, so there's that, right? But I think what this is kind of getting to is people are leaving. I'm guessing it's alluding to people leaving because they're disgruntled, or they feel not listened to, or they're overworked or underpaid, or all of those things, right? I would encourage you to look at whether this is a you issue or a company issue. And does it relate to safety or not relate to safety? Because I think you have to put it in the right perspective as to how much it affects you, right? High
What are
turnover
you do?
means more training.
Are you helping
Right.
alleviate the turnover issue, or are you contributing to it? Right. So anytime you have companies that have high turnover in oil and gas, construction, tend to be those industries that can have high turnover rates, right? So I would look to see what the baseline is for the industry. What is it for companies that do the work we do? What's normal? What's normal, right? And if we're above that line, that represents a risk because we're losing experienced employees, we're getting new employees in that
Wasting
lack of
money
experience.
training and doing all those things.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
strain on you financially. So you have financial risk, you have occupational safety and health risk. Hey, what are you doing to help either alleviate it or contributing to the solution? So have you talked to senior management about your concerns? Have you put together a memorandum and say, this amount of turnover is costing us X number of dollars more a year because we're consistently having to onboard and retrain workers and all these topics of occupational safety and health? Put some numbers to it. So,
Make a
before you
good
say
case.
people don't care, you have to come to the conclusion that what am I doing to communicate my concerns in a manner that's reasonable and understandable? Now, there are things outside your control. I'm going to use this word that I really don't like to use, but it's a thing, right? Culture, organizational culture. What are you doing to change the culture that's contributing to disgruntled employees? All right.
Now, I want to caution here, right? We're not talking about safety culture,
Right.
right? Because safety is just a portion of the overall organizational culture, right? And while you can create positive safety system, right? Safety management system and a positive attitude towards safety, really, that's only a small piece of the organizational culture. And so you have to think about the whole and not the part, right? And that I think is really hard for safety professionals, right? They want to think about just the safety and the
Just the
risk,
safety.
right? But it's not about that, right? We are such a small piece. We're a large piece in our own mind, right? But a small piece of the overall company culture, and so we've got to think as the whole and not the part.
Here's the next one. You have lost interest or passion for your job.
Get out. Honestly, I think that you have to do some self-evaluation. And if you really lost the passion for what you do, this is not a profession. This is not a profession to be applying if you don't care.
Here are things that I see that's evidence that you've lost interest or passion for your job. You see it a lot amongst instructors that teach the same courses all the time. When they first get to teaching courses, they're fired up, they're doing research, they're keeping it evergreen, they're passionate about what they do because they understand that they may make an impact on a worker's decision-making processes in the field that save that worker's life. You know, we used to say this, an old master trainer told me, James, you'll never know how many lives you save, but you'll remember every one that you don't. Okay. So most people get in this, they're passionate about it, and then a few years go by. We're doing the same things, and you start to see them slip. That 8-hour course is now about 4 hours. That content you used to go through and put in
Say evergreen
stories, we're just reading off the PowerPoint. We're getting through this. You know, hey, and I've seen this as well. You have a test at the end, and instead of spending extra time with the worker going over the answers that they did not get correct, we just change it for them, give them 100, and move on. Mm-hmm. That's burnout. That's burnout, that's laziness, that's fraud, and that's unethical. And it's time for you to go. Now,
okay, so let me stop you right there, right? Because sometimes it's time for you to go from training into something else, right? So if you're a trainer all the time and you're sick of training, there are other places in the profession that may fit for you, right? Field safety, office safety, analytics, software stuff, document production, etc. But there's a really fine line between being burned out overall and being burned out on what you do, right? And that's ownership of your own professional development and your own job, right? Now, again, if you're burnt out on safety, if you're burnt out on this profession, right? I'm going to tell you what I tell kids coming out of college in any field, right? If you don't like what you do for work, because you work a lot of your time, then change it. There's no shame. There is no shame in going out of a profession that you did a 4-year degree in and into something that's brand new for you. There's no shame in that. Number one, be happy, and number two, be fruitful in your efforts.
Absolutely. And so, like you said, there are different aspects of occupational safety and health that you may find interest. It may not be in that present job that you're doing for that present employer. I see job opportunities pop up all the time. And as a person who used to do a lot of training, I can tell you, teaching 5 days a week, 8 hours a day can wear you out. Wear you out. So be honest with your employer. Take extreme ownership. Hey, I need a break. And let me say this about people that aren't trainers. And I'll give you this from a personal standpoint. I get burnout. You know, I take a lot on. And,
you do.
And I don't have a lot of free time, so to speak, because I'm a workaholic. And I've never understood. I mean, I understand it conceptually, but I've never understood.
Therapy? Is this therapy? Because that's a great statement and it's true. You do take a lot on and you are a workaholic.
You know, I like to work because I'm passionate about what we do. But I really struggle with work-life balance. I really struggle with work-life balance. And that's not fair to my family, my friends, the things I do outside of work, right? So what I'm doing to avoid burnout is saying, do I really need to take this project on? Is this something I have to do, or can I let somebody else in my organization do it? And that gives them the opportunity to succeed, to learn. We have continuous improvement. I'm setting some rails. So, you know, they have some freedom, but they don't run the company off into a ditch while they're doing these things. And so I think that can be lower that stress level and let me focus on things that I have more interest and passion for. So I would just say before we move to the next topic, all of us struggle with that. All of us have bad days. We have bad days. Every day is not going to be rainbows, puppies, and sunshine. And just because I have a bad Thursday does not necessarily mean I've lost passion or interest in the job. I just had a bad day. All right. So if you're
And you
stringing
need to do
those
some
bad days together,
self-evaluation, right?
self-evaluation. If you're stringing Thursdays, now Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it may be time for you to look at doing something else. And I think you owe it to the people who hired you to, particularly in safety, to manage safety for workers in the field, that you owe it to them and to your boss to be honest about where you are.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
What's up next?
All right. Your knowledge and skills are underutilized. Ooh.
Oh, that's a hot topic, right? I mean, because you could be underutilized because of your own fault, that you're not showcasing those skills that you have, right? And slotting them into the right place and telling management about what you can do. Or the opposite side of the coin, James, could be that you could be telling them that, and they don't want that. They
Right.
just want some guy to walk around or gal to walk around and say, put your hard hat on. They don't want you to showcase those skills.
You know, I think that really comes down to what you discussed during the hiring process. You know, a lot of times when we do interviews, the interviewer is the one that's throwing out and doing all the talking. And the interviewee is not asking enough questions about job scope things. They want to know pay, vacation, benefits, and all that's important. Nobody's working for free, right? But I need to know what it is you want me to do. Number one. Now, what I like is for people who are aggressive, that think outside the box, that take on greater responsibility, that prove they can do other jobs. That's how you get raises at Mariner Gulf. Okay. That's how we do it over here. So when you say you're being underutilized, it's probably sometimes a situation where you're waiting for someone to tell you something to do. Okay. Take the initiative. Take the initiative, get after it. Say, I can do this. I can help you in these other areas. Bring it to the attention of your supervisors. Bring it to the attention of your bosses. Because once I know you're willing to do these things, I can take stuff off my plate and delegate it to you, right? So it's a little bit about building trust. It's about good communication. But on the flip side of this, sometimes the job is what it is. I remember I had a guy, he had a PhD, CSP in occupational safety and health. And we had a job that did not pay in the pay range that he thought he should be getting. And I'm like, look, man, that's what this job pays. They're not asking for a PhD, CSP, CIH. They're asking for a safety technician. So no, you're not making $300,000. Sorry. In that position. So good communication along those lines. Let people know what you're willing to do. Okay. How about this one? You feel that there is no growth left for you.
Yeah, that's fair, right? I mean, I've been with some small companies where I've taken the safety program as far as I can take it. You know, I mean, that's really, again, I think these all are coming down to, you know, and for good or for bad, you soul searching what can be done with the resources you have, with the support you have, and with the tools that you have in your toolbox, right? So if you've taken a small company as far as they want to go, as far as they can go, then perhaps it's time to let somebody else come in and manage that program.
You know, where I see it mostly is I love, and I can give you a bunch of names. Chris Brophy, who's been on our show before, is one. Eddie Nevin is one. Are guys that started out with us in entry-level safety positions. And they focused on their professional development, and we focused on their professional development. And they outgrew the position that they were in.
You had.
And
That
then
you
they
had to go.
left. And I was like a proud papa
You are a
sending them
proud
out
papa.
into the world. Now, both of these guys are safety directors for companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They have really good safety programs. And so they outgrew the position. Hey, I'm excited about that. I want them to go and get another job. You know, to some extent, if you're not growing and moving up in an organization and you're doing the same job that you were doing 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and you've taken on the responsibilities, you need to ask, is that a me issue or is that a company issue? Am I comfortable
Right.
where I am? It's okay to be comfortable where you are, as long as you're given a good day's work for a good day's pay.
Yep. Totally
Okay.
agree. Well
All
done.
right. Let's talk about this. You're asked to do unethical things.
Okay. So I think we're on the same page here, right? You can have a conversation of what's being asked of you, but at the bottom line, um, you know, we're bound by ethics, right? Whether we're bound by our professional ethics for our certifications that we hold, but you know, safety is a very important role in a company. And when you are ethically asked to do something that puts others in danger or doesn't allow them to have the resources and the support that they're supposed to have, or that you're lying to a professional regulatory body or etc. I think this is a no-go for me, James.
Oh, it's time
Ethics
to
can be
go.
ethics can
It's
be
time to
a
go.
discussion to see if they don't understand what the ethics involved in the situation are, but 100%, if you are ethically asked to do something that is unethical, you got to go.
You know, here's some examples of unethical activity. Falsification of training records.
Mhm.
I see
Lying
that.
to a regulatory body.
We do assessments for a lot of different hiring clients. Can't tell you how many times once we get into the assessment, we find falsified training records. Okay. What is falsified training records? I'll give you an example from years ago. The rosters for all the OSHA required training classes were on paper, right? And every roster had every employee, all the same employees, all the same names, in the
Same
same
order.
order, with the same signatures. And I held them up to the light and they all matched. Okay. That's falsifying training records. Now, whether you did that because you just were lazy and didn't do the
Efficiency.
training, probably not the case. Probably it was some type of situation where the adequate resources were not be dedicated for time to allow you to do the proper training. And the pressure is, hey, we got to falsify these records, this documentation, right? You're asked to falsify, and usually it doesn't come out and say, hey, I want you to falsify this document. Usually is, look, man, we can't put that down because there's a business need, right? We're not going to record this. We're not going to report this. There's a business need. It's time for you to go, right?
Right.
I mean,
100%.
you can you can take the position of still extreme ownership. Hey, I need to explain to you why we don't need to do this, what the ramifications are. Not only is it unethical, the penalties if we get caught from both our hiring clients and from the regulatory bodies can be extreme. Not to mention if there ends up in litigation and we falsified these records, you know, we could be talking about all sorts of damages. The risk reward is too much. Explain that. But if you've explained that, and the management decision is
Then
we
you
want
got
you
to
to do
go.
something else, it's time to go. It's time to go. And that's kind of coupled with another, it's time to go. Your company seems financially unstable.
You can only do so much with what you got. And when you got nothing, then it's time to go.
You know, if we can't afford PPE, if we can't afford to train people, we have severe budget cutbacks. Now everybody's got a budget, right? And it ebbs and flows. But there's some things you have to pay for. You have to pay for.
And this just kind of winds back to ethics, James.
It's tied
right?
together.
It's tied together.
It's tied together. So if you feel like the long-term financial stability of the organization is going to ride all the way into bankruptcy, I would recommend do not ride the Titanic down. It's time to go. Here's one that we talk about a lot related to psychological safety, but it's also physical safety. Your health is being negatively impacted by your work. Okay.
Okay. Well, this goes back to stress, right?
It all comes to stress. It's all related to stress, right?
A lot of us take our job very seriously, right? This is I sometimes say to people, my job is serious as a heart attack, right? Because if I don't do my job in all of the intricacies that I need to do my job, somebody might get hurt. Somebody might die. And as you said, James, you may not remember everybody you've trained or given information to or supported or whatever, but you sure will remember the people that you missed something and they got hurt or they died. Heaven forbid.
Usually for us,
right?
It's mental health, it's physical health, being overweight, high blood pressure, heart attacks, things of that nature. I believe in riding for the brand. I do. I've always been a company man, right? No matter who I work for. But when that starts impacting your health, it's time to have some communication with those that are higher up. I need less responsibilities. I need some time off, whatever.
Need some help.
I need additional resources, both human and capital. Have those conversations. If not, look, man, I've had a lot of friends pass away that were company men.
Riding for the brand.
I've gone to their funerals. You know how many people from the company they worked for showed up? One or two. Company didn't shut down that day. They kept working. Now, they sent flowers and maybe took care of the family financially, but you see what the point is.
They're going to keep going without you.
Going. They're not going to rename the organization after you because you die because of work-related stress. So set some boundaries. Here's another sign that it may be time for you to quit your job. You dread going to work. You hate it. Well, that goes back to that organizational culture. Why do you hate it? Is it because you're being harassed? Is it because it's very
stressed out?
Absolutely.
You feel like you're dying from the inside?
It's time to move on. But I would say this, have a plan to move on. Don't just walk in and throw down a gauntlet one day and say, I'm out of here. And then the truck gets repoed, right? Have a plan.
Oh, James, that's such good advice. I wish I had taken it all those times that I did that.
Yes. I hear you. Here's one.
Are you talking about me?
And ideas are not heard. Boy, I've lived that one. You put a lot of passion, a lot of desire, a lot of your personal, I don't even know what the word is, your personal effort.
Yep. Blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears, right? Into this organization. And your feedback is either not heard or it's ignored.
Right.
Now, here's the thing as a boss. Sometimes you ask people for feedback, right? And I can tell when people do this. They ask you for feedback and ideas, but they really don't want to hear it. They ask you for feedback and ideas for the purpose of asking for feedback and ideas. They've already made their mind up as to what they're going to do.
Well, or they're looking for you to blow some smoke so that makes them feel better, right?
Right. So as a boss, I want to take people's feedback, ideas, particularly those closer to the process, into consideration when we formulate whatever strategy we're using or whatever process we're going to put in place. Because here's what's going to happen. You keep telling good people, ignoring good people that have good ideas, and those ideas are not heard. Their feedback's not heard. They're going
They're
to
all gonna
stop
leave.
giving it to you.
And they're going to leave.
And then the next thing you're going to be do is probably giving good ideas and feedback to your competition.
Right. Right.
Okay? Your workplace is a toxic environment. Time to go.
Okay, it's culture. Culture, time to go.
Here's one. You have a terrible boss. Look, I'm going to say this. You may have a terrible boss. What are you doing to help your boss? If you make your boss look good, all of a sudden they're not so terrible. That's taking extreme ownership. That's saying,
Right.
what can I do to help my boss do their job, do it better, more efficiently?
More informed, be more informed.
Absolutely. Look, you're
Right.
never embarrassing your boss is never a good career move. Helping your boss and adopting some extreme ownership in this and coming and saying, you know, hey, have you thought about maybe doing it this way? Have you thought about doing it that way? Maybe that changes your relationship. Now, if it's toxic, if it's abusive, if it's, you know,
There's
creating
violence, there's any of that stuff.
where you're dreading to go to work the next day all the time, then maybe it's
Make a plan and it's time to go. Well, let me say this to kind of sum some of these things up, right?
right.
As we said originally, right, at the very onset of the program, all of this is relative, right? So don't take one piece of this advice that we're giving, because it is advice. It's opinion-based advice, of all the things that we've seen over our 30-some year careers, right?
Right.
And James, you're gonna love this. It just depends, right? It depends on you. It depends on the situation. It depends on all those things. But you should be looking at not just one of these things. You should be looking at all of these things. That if you go to my LinkedIn, and I'm sure James probably has shared it, you know, when it's time to quit your job, you look at all of those things, put them all in the hopper together, and then evaluate and make a decision, right? It's never, unless it's ethics, which is kind of a pinpoint,
Right.
that you can kind of lean on,
Or
or
the
your
company's
health,
going broke.
or the company's going broke. Most of the time, and I would say probably the lion's share of these things that aren't pinpoint areas in time, that you need to evaluate them all together. And if you can't evaluate them yourself, you should be bouncing these things off of a trusted colleague, somebody who
Absolutely.
knows what you do and how you do it and what the job entails, and just get some feedback, right? Reach out to a couple colleagues and get some feedback. But by no means are we saying to just quit your job unless it's really, really bad. Make sure you have a plan. And there are a lot of safety jobs out there.
There are, and you see a lot of turnover in safety. You know, I get resumes all the time for positions that we have open. See it on LinkedIn. People have positions open in other employment services like Indeed, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of opportunities in the field of safety. And when I get resumes, sometimes I see people work here a year, work here a year, work here a year, work here a year. And I dig into that. Hey, were you doing outage or turnaround work? Or were you working for a company and you only made it a year and then you left to go to another job? Was it a better job? Those type things can sometimes hurt you in the hiring process. But to echo what you said, take our feedback into consideration in the totality, because leaving an organization and quitting your job is a major decision. It's a major decision. It
Affects you, it affects your family.
Absolutely.
It
And it
affects
may
people
affect your
around you.
career opportunities down the road. Right? So listen to what we're talking about. Use those in your decision-making process. You're responsible for your career, your family, your professional development. It's not unusual for safety professionals to have different jobs and to move up in responsibilities. But I think
Around.
there has to be some discernment before you make a decision to quit your job just because you're having a bad day.
Right. So James, I think that's a perfect area to stop on this episode. And I would encourage you all to reach out to us if you want to talk about this. Put some down in the comments. Go ahead and make some comments down there. Ask some questions. We're happy to answer them. You can get in touch with both James and I on LinkedIn. Hit us up, friend us. Follow us, and as you can see, we put out an episode of the Risk Matrix every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, this drops at around noon Central Standard Time, and we've got a different topic every week. So, James, what do they need to do?
You need to go over there on the Veriforce YouTube channel, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Spotify, same thing. It'll alert you when our episodes are published and ready for viewing. Every Tuesday, we look forward to the conversation. And for those of you that are going to ASSP's conference in Denver, I will be there hanging out at the Veriforce booth. Hit me up. Let's have a conversation. Let's debate. Let's talk. And let's try to keep bringing workers home safe from high hazard jobs.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Till next time, out.
Out.